Ladies and gentlemen, this was literally me all day because I watched the episode last night like I did the last week. I watched it at midnight and then I was busting at the seams, but I wasn't going to stay up till 2 a.m. to talk about that. I couldn't do it in me. But now we're going to talk about the season finale of Dexter Resurrection. And this has solidified, and believe me, we're going to do a season review very soon, but this has solidified for me that this is my favorite season of Dexter. I'm just going to say it right now. Hands down, this is my favorite season of Dexter. And while this episode wasn't, I don't know that I could say it was my favorite episode out of all of them, this had some of the most standout moments in there. There's a few really ideal, insane moments that I just absolutely loved. And a couple of those moments, just a spoiler alert before we actually talk about them, are Brian Moser, they're Leon Prater's on the kill table, they are Claudette dancing, and that reveal to the fourth wall at the very end of the episode where Dexter had that self-awareness, and in general, Clyde Phillips and all them had the self-awareness to look into the camera and say that this is the Dexter Morgan that we wanted. That was fucking amazing. I think that was the best moment of the entire show, hands down.
That is brilliant.
But we're going to talk about all of that in this, obviously. So I've been waiting to talk about this. So this episode starts out immediately where the last episode left off. Obviously, from the outside, we see Leon Prater and Charlie and how happy Leon is that he finally killed someone and how excited he was about it, and almost like he had like a fucking orgasm over it. He was freaking out at the fact that he did it, and Charlie was like not happy to see that. And I loved that, and I loved the talks they had of how long could Dexter stay in that room, I guess you could call it. I don't know what you would call it, the bunker, whatever you call it. And whether it's like the rules of 3 or something like that. It's 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, 3 something without oxygen, something like that. I forget what they said. I loved that sort of dialogue. And then Prater's just like, let's go clean up. Let's get out of here. And then we cut right to Dexter, and as soon as we got to Dexter, we got Brian Moser. So that was the first thing we got, which I thought was great. And sometimes when there's those random cameos that pop up in the show, it takes you out of the moment a little bit because it's like, whoa, here's the thing. Like, sure, it was very cool to see Brian Moser, like 100%. But it wasn't a great addition because Brian Moser was in the picture. It was actually a great addition for what it did to Dexter's arc. I think this was the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was the first time that we saw Dexter Morgan, the Bay Harbor butcher, crying over someone who died. Because let's be real, and that's why I loved that Brian Moser was in this scene, is that it was a great juxtaposition between Brian as a brother and Batista as a brother. Because Brian is biological, sure, but Batista was way more of a true loving brother to Dexter, and he was innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. He was right. He was right to look after and chase after Dexter. He knew what he was doing. And if you put it all into perspective, it made everything just so great to see Dexter really just succumb to this and have it really affect him in the same sort of way that Rita did and that Deb did. It really shows how much heart is in this supposed psychopath. And I loved what we got with Brian talking to him about that and how Dexter essentially shut Brian out and then threw something at him and then he was just gone. He vanished. I even liked the little addition that Brian was sitting on his own kill table where he died. I thought that addition was just absolutely fantastic. That whole sequence was really good. The standout moment wasn't even, like I said, Brian Moser coming into the picture. It was Dexter crying. It was Dexter really feeling for Batista, who was his lifelong friend. And just on the topic of this, reflecting off of what happened in episode 9, I made a whole video talking about my feelings about Batista. If you didn't watch that, check it out up here. I go in depth about my feelings after the initial reaction. The reason I bring that up in particular is because it really is heartbreaking and sad if you think about it. Batista thought that Dexter was like a brother to him. He loved Dexter. And imagine what that would be like to know, to one, be great friends with someone, see him lose someone, then think he died, mourn him, speak at his funeral, declare him dead, grieve with that, all for years later it to be discovered that he's the Bay Harbor Butcher and he was really alive the whole time. That is just some sad shit. That really was. And honestly, say what you will about how they did all of it. I think they did such a good job at executing that story that I'm willing to pass over a little bit of why I was disappointed that he died. I think no one wanted to see him die. But yeah, the reason I bring all that up is to tie it full circle. Dexter clearly felt all of this, and it was just so wonderful to see true natural emotion out of that. So after Brian leaves and all of that, then it's really just a matter of Dexter trying to find a way out. He hears Batista's phone is ringing, which I thought was so I thought it was so funny that Batista's ringtone is the song from Shrek. I thought that was just such a good, hilarious addition that they just did not need to do. This episode, for being as dark and serious as it had some really, really funny moments. Like, I was literally cracking the fuck up later in the episode when Claudette started dancing to Staying Alive. We're going to talk about that because it's actually a bigger point than you may think in this season in general. But yeah, so that's kind of what set up the entire story, was Dexter trying to get out. And as he's trying to get out, there was some excellent moments between Harry and Dexter. Actually, some of my favorite moments between Harry and him in this season. They were truly wonderful. Offhead, I can't remember the little interactions. I wrote it down, so there must have been something good specifically, but a lot of their interactions really just stuck out to me, so I had to at least bring that up. But outside of that, after their conversations and during their conversations, it's revealed that Prater, as Dexter's looking for the combo to the door, Prater does have files on everyone. Prater has files even on Charlie. He has files on, obviously, as we learned in this episode, Don Frampt, who is the New York Ripper. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But he has files on all the serial killers, which I think is an excellent setup for season 2. Even with Leon out of the picture, even with Batista out of the picture, this setup of him collecting all of these files on all the other serial killers, there was at least 5 he grabbed that were not in this season at all. I think that is going to be a really fun setup to see where it goes and see a more, I guess, slightly human side to Dexter while still doing the things that he's currently doing. So as that's all going on, he finally, after I mentioned Batista's phone was ringing with the Shrek theme song, he then hears that, so he calls Harrison on Batista's phone, which is dying, to get Harrison to come over, but Harrison is literally in the middle of eating out Gigi, which was a little excessive, to be honest. So it took him like 3 times to answer the phone, which was interesting because he saw it was Batista, but then it got serious really quickly. But I love how it sprung into action with Harrison taking charge and trying to save Dexter. I'm really, again, this season just solidified so much for me. I loved Harrison this season. Like, so much to the point where I'd be cool if they focused a lot more on his character. Maybe not so much with the Gigi shit, because I don't really care for that. Like, I don't need to see him eating out some girl. I don't need to see them kissing and dancing in a bar. I don't need to see that stuff. I'm more interested in the relationship with Dexter and where that's going to go for Harrison and stuff like that. And I think it really delivered in this episode, because obviously Harrison goes in covert. He's acting as one of the people, the bar cart people. I don't know I forget the name of what you would call that, like a server, cocktail server, whatever. He's acting like one of them, trying to stay away from Prater and Charlie, and in doing so, he eventually gets caught by Charlie in what I thought was kind of a mixed bag, because on one hand, when Harrison did get caught by Charlie, I was expecting that Dexter and Charlie would find a way to team up. And I guess in some sort of way, they kind of did, but I was a little disappointed to see that even after Dexter gave the leverage for Charlie that oh, I know about you, all I have to do is click a button and people are going to be on your ass, all of that stuff, I thought she was going to be like, okay, well, fuck Prater, and honestly, because you're the Bay Harbor Butcher and your job is to take out people I also hate, let's just team up and fuck Prater. I thought that's what was going to happen. I was kind of hoping that was going to happen, but I do think it subverted my expectations in a way that's at least passable, wherein she kind of just turns a blind eye, even though she does threaten Harrison by basically saying he'll find him and all of that stuff. I did still think at least it was nice to see that she kind of turned a blind eye to him and just kind of said, you should follow me, but if you're not, whatever. And then she just upright and quits to Prater, who at this point is apoplectic and freaks out. And then right after this, he goes on stage and he sees Harrison back down there doing his covert mission shit. And that's what leads him to chase down Harrison, bring him back up into the vault. And then once he gets into the vault, he puts a gun to Harrison. And I thought it was an excellent little detail in there that as the gun's pointed at Harrison and Dexter's like, shoot me, that it was revealed that the use protection thing wasn't a way to, have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Gigi. If you get the reference, you know what I mean? Whatever. Instead, that use protection thing was actually an M99, M90, the tranquilizer. That's what it was. I thought that was an excellent reveal, and I thought that was just done so well. And now we got to get to one of my favorite parts of this episode. It's the fact that the entire scene with Prater and with Dexter was one of the best highlights. Obviously, when Dexter has someone on his kill table, it's always really interesting because revelations come. We get a more human side to Dexter, and we get a really interesting story there. But man, Peter Dinklage, I think, was at his best of the entire show, if not some of the best acting I've ever seen him done in this episode. Jesus, Christmas cookies on a Monday. It was fucking insane to see how like frantic he would get, and then he would like plead and talk to himself and like giggle, and then like just be like, I know, like things like that. He does such a good job. He was so good in this role, especially to be on the kill table. I think by far, fangirling out here, he was the best person to be on a kill table I think I've ever seen. Just the way his frantic behavior was, his cockiness, his thought that he could use Harrison as leverage, and then Dexter is obviously like, keep my son's name out of your mouth, almost like Will Smith to Chris Rock, which I thought was pretty funny. But all in all, I think the best thing about that was we have two incredible actors, Michael C. Hall and Peter Dinklage, acting, I think, to their best of their abilities in this episode, in that scene. They both just put on such an incredible performance. Everything, even down to Peter Dinklage, the way when he got stabbed, like his reaction to getting stabbed was just something that you don't see. It actually kind of like freaked me out a little bit because I felt like that is like what would happen if someone got stabbed there. I don't know, like those little details only Peter Dinklage can nail, and I think he really did. I just thought that was so great, and I thought it was great at the end, right before Dexter kills him, that Prater was like, oh, you're gonna put me in one of your boxes, like you're gonna put me in the box, like wow, even though he was clearly terrified, he like had that moment of like, wow, that's crazy. But I love how Dexter was like, no, you don't belong there. You're not going in there. I don't want to remember you. And then he kills him. I thought that was absolutely great. Just in general, I thought it was awesome. And I loved how at the end, he chopped off the thumb so he could get out, chopped him up, which I did think was a little interesting and confusing, to be completely honest. I don't exactly understand how there was no blood when, like, the table... I didn't get it. He didn't like do an actual plastic wrap of the whole place, and then he set it up so that the cops could find him. Like, he left a lot of evidence there. I hope to God Clyde Phillips and the team actually give that some justice and make it seem that Dexter Morgan's DNA or something is all over that place, because it just has to be. He was in there for so long. He killed someone in there with what seemed like no plastic all around other than right on Prater himself, which also like, how did he get that? I don't know. Maybe I missed that detail, whatever. But all of that being said, I think that's going to set up something interesting for season 2 with Claudette and Aliva. No, my theory about Aliva, by the way, being the New York Ripper is not true. Unfortunately, we're going to get to that, I promise. But that's going to set something up for sure. Then after that... After that, we get my favorite scene in the entire episode, the funniest scene, I should say, in the entire episode, and that was Claudette's about to leave. As soon as she's like walking out the door, Staying Alive comes on, and she's like, gotta go, and she just goes. I thought it was so great. It was so funny. And you guys know, in these reviews, I have said many times how I was getting sick and tired of them doing the needle drop to Staying Alive, but this paid off the whole thing. So I don't even care. That was so fucking funny. I was seriously cracking up. More than a TV show, more than even a show like It's Always Sunny, which I love, does. Or I'm wearing a Curb Your Enthusiasm shirt right now. More than that show does sometimes. That made me crack the fuck up. And that's a good payoff for something. People were like, why are you doing this? Why are you showing this the whole time? It was genuinely, it was just really funny. But right after that is when the alarms start to go off because Dexter then comes out of the room. And so obviously they all rush up, and that's when Claudette finds Batista. And I thought it was great that Batista and that Claudette and Oliva looked at him, and I feel like they got a sense of, okay, he might have been onto something here. And that was just very fascinating to watch unfold, and she even put the hat on him. But that's going to set up something interesting. I would love to see season 2 start with Batista's funeral back in Miami. Will we get it? I don't know. I think Quinn might be around a little bit in this season too. I'm not really sure where that's going to go, but I would like to see a little bit more of that, or maybe like even Jamie coming into the picture with that grieving. Something's got to happen there. I hope this isn't the last we hear from Miami Metro. I don't think it's going to be, but I really hope that's not the case. So that was something that I really thoroughly enjoyed. But then after that, it cuts to the ending, which, my God, I mean, the speech we got with Dexter on the boat, which is also another red flag. How is he just going to steal a yacht like that, even if Prater's missing? I guess you could chalk it up to Prater maybe took the yacht somewhere or whatever, but like that's a big yacht. Like anyone could easily find that. That's another big plot hole that I'm really hoping they explore a little bit in season 2. But the monologue we got from Dexter on that yacht was, I think, some of the best work of Dexter of all time. Not because the conversation itself, for the most part, in his inner monologue was anything super crazy in the beginning, like him talking about how he needs people to be more human, like how he needs Blessing and how he needs Harrison and all of that stuff. But it was really that ending. Just, I loved that fourth wall break. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, where Dexter seemingly acknowledges the fans that Dexter Morgan is exactly who he needs to be and exactly who we want him to be. That literally felt like it was Clyde Phillips speaking directly to us. And it literally, like, they knew they cooked and delivered and told us. It was done just absolutely perfectly. It was like Scott Buck. Did I just say Scott Buck? It was like Scott Reynolds and Clyde Phillips were literally speaking to us and saying, we know we delivered here. You're welcome. That's what it felt like. And it was well deserved. Whereas some other shows can't do that. This was just deliberate, well-deserved. They knew they cooked this season, and they absolutely delivered, and I think that was my favorite moment of the entire episode. And honestly, them just being on the Hudson River, Dexter being on a yacht in the Hudson River, I take ferries to New York on that river, exactly where that was, like, all the time. So that was great to see, and it's also great that he's back on a boat, and it's great that he's dumping bodies in the Hudson, because no one wants to touch the fucking Hudson with a 10-foot pole. That thing is disgusting. That thing is literally New York's depository for all of its unsolved crimes. Like, no joke. So Dexter's just adding to the collection there. I thought that was really great, but that monologue at the end was just so powerful, and what a great, fantastic way to put a nice chef's kiss bow on, I think, by far the best season of Dexter, one of my favorite seasons of TV of all time. Just in general, absolutely loved it. And look, I talked a lot of praise, but it wasn't all good. This episode really needed a little bit more runtime, 100%. I think this episode could have used, I think episode 4 or maybe 7 was an hour and 6 minutes. This episode 100% could have filled in the time a little bit better. I feel the same way about episode 9. I'm not saying that's like a big holdback and all of that stuff, but it definitely is something that's worth talking about. It felt very rushed. It felt like they were just getting beat to beat to beat. And I find it interesting because they allocated so much more time in other episodes, but your 2 biggest episodes should have just had that more time. So that's something that definitely disappointed me. And now the last thing that I had to talk about, because I had to save the best for last, was this, not the best for last, but I had to talk about this Don Frampt guy thing. All of our theories were wrong. And this seems like it's more of a nothing burger just to set up season 2. I don't know who Don Frampt is. I don't know. Maybe you guys have some ideas, or maybe there was a sprinkle of it somewhere or whatever. I've been trying to figure that out ever since I watched the Russian leaks last week, which, by the way, if you were commenting those leaks last week in episode 9, fuck you, seriously, because you ruined it for me. You honestly compromised this review because I saw your comments early. Not really, fuck you, I'm not that mad at you, but seriously, it's not cool. Like, why would you do that? I don't understand why you'd go in and ruin it for everyone. That's not cool, including me, because then I saw it early and blah, blah, blah. But whatever. I don't know if maybe there has been some sort of addressing of who Don Frampt is as the New York Ripper, but I'm very interested to see where that goes and what that means going forward in season 2. Clearly, they wouldn't bring it up if they weren't setting something up there. So very interested to see whatever that is, but time will tell. And man, that's all of my thoughts in one video about the episode. I am going to be doing a season review because there's a lot of little details I left out that are relevant. Like, what the fuck happened to Elsa? Why did we have so much focus on Blessing entirely? I get it at the end with the monologue. They gave a little bit there, but there's a lot of little things like that that we got to talk about this season overall and just give an overall rating. I mean, spoiler alert, you guys already know my rating. This is my favorite season of Dexter. I could confidently say that. And before I hear, oh, it's recency bias, all that stuff, I binged all of Dexter in this January for the first time ever. In 30 days, I binged the entire show. So this isn't recency bias. I've seen all of them very close together, and now I'm watching this, and I can say with confidence this is the best out of all of them. This is liquid dynamite. This is literally liquid dynamite, and honestly, it is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant.
That is brilliant.
I can't talk highly enough. This was one of my favorite seasons of TV of all time. It goes up there with Better Call Saul season 6 for me. I fucking loved the season. This is how you do a spinoff. But I'd love to hear from you. Did you like this season too? Did you like this episode? Where do you stand on the matter? Definitely be sure to comment down below. Consider becoming a member on the channel. Helps the channel grow. I'd also give shout outs and things like that as the time comes, and there's exclusive content. Be sure to follow me on X at Jerry's_takes and Instagram at Jerry's.takes. Don't ask me why there's a difference. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.